The things that we take for granted, folks, are electricity. All of our utilities. Some of you would even, the way you consume the internet, you would take for granted. What if it just wasn't there tomorrow? What if you weren't able to flush your feces down into the sewer? What if you turn your faucet on and you can't get water? What if you think you're going to drive to the market except you didn't get gas yesterday and there's no power to put gas in your car? Are you a prepper? Are you even mildly trying to prepare for natural? You know what? Even if I'm freaking nuts and everything that we talk about here is never going to happen, you'll never see martial law. You'll never see the inside of a FEMA camp. The elections aren't fixed. Our presidents and our government does have our best interests at hand. Even if all that was true, we still have natural disasters going on. And you should be preparing yourself and your family for straight up doom. Folks, there are things happening in this country that don't normally happen in certain areas. We have forest fires not devouring thousands of acres. We're talking hundreds of miles of foliage in homes and cities. We're talking about lightning that will spark fires of epic proportions. We're talking about tornadoes, not one or two at a time. I'm talking like whole brigades of tornadoes coming down. I'm talking about tsunamis. I'm talking about windstorms. Just great big 100-mile an hour gusts of winds just blowing your ass down the road. This is happening right now. If you're not able to have the hindsight to go out and get yourself some preparation, bottles of water. How much water, Jeff? Well, when I lived in Florida, I had bottled water brought to my house because, unfortunately, my well was black sulfur water. And although you could clean and cook with it, it's not very good to drink or make iced tea with. It has to be boiled before you drink it. Or it tastes like pure sulfur. It's disgusting. A family of 4 in Florida, where it's always hot, was consuming roughly 20 gallons of water a month. That's for drinking water. Now, that's obviously not monitored. I mean, hey, I'm thirsty. I'm going to go get a bucket of water over here out of my cooler. Good idea. I got more in the back. Drink what you want. No, I'm talking about how much water would you need to save for 3 to 6 months, or not in a world survival situation. How much water would you need to store to sustain 2 to 3 weeks, or let's say a month with no power, gas, water, or anything like that? How long do you think it takes? What if let's play this card game a little different. Let's say that they can't get the power back on to some of these people within 7 days. It might be 14 days. How long do you think people are going to go without before they start raping and pillaging and pushing buttons in their cities and with their neighbors and with the other civilians in the city? How long do you think it's going to take before the police department can't handle and the fire department can't handle the load of calls that aren't coming in because nobody can call? How are you going to charge your cell phone? How many of you have cordless phones at home? Not very many people have a phone anymore that just plugs into a jack that you don't need to plug into something. You know what I'm saying? Almost everything we have now depends on batteries or some type of power source, folks, and those batteries have to be recharged. I hope you have a solar charger. I do. 5 gallons of water per person a day? No, that's way too much. Maybe 5 gallons per person for a month. I think you could live on 5 gallons of water for a month if you rationed it. Folks, listen, you hear me talk all the time about natural disaster. You hear me talk all the time about things that could happen where we might have to institute martial law, or, let's go back a little bit. How many of you realize that almost every state affected by this power outage, they already declared state of emergencies? They've signed it. Our state is in a state of emergency. I read an article last week that Obama put the United States in a state of emergency due to Russian nuclear blah blah blah. Folks, you've heard me do the executive orders. I've done them at least 4 times. I go over executive orders at least 1 time a year, and there's one, and I don't have the information in front of me, but there is one executive order that the president has to sign. It already has a number, and the document is already made. All he's got to do is have the Attorney General come out and produce the document, and he'll sign it. And that I want you to listen to what this does, okay? When this order is signed, it completely suspends the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Congress and Senate. And it puts FEMA in 100% control. And the crazy thing is, folks, there isn't an order to put it back in control. It could be indefinite, okay? Without your constitutional rights, there's no more reason for them to bat an eye about taking your firearms or taking you from your home or deeming you a domestic terrorist because of your views on a radio station or an internet TV show or a newspaper. We are at the time in this country where we really better start questioning ourselves, because the fact that we're not questioning ourselves on why we're letting this happen is beyond my comprehension. It really is. We have had the power the entire time, and yet we'll hear about all this unconstitutional bibber blabber on all of your mainstream media. Hell, you'll even hear it here on alternative media. All the media sources are talking about unconstitutional this, that, and the other. But nobody does anything more than talk about it. Now, many of us have wrote, many of us have called and complained and wrote letters and emails and electronic correspondence and took polls and filled out ballots and everything we could do to be peaceful. Then we went to the next stage. We threw our fists in the air and we marched on their Capitol and we demanded this and that, and then we even went a step farther than that. We marched on them armed as a peaceful armed march. Still no response. What's next? Do you have the answer? I don't. I can tell you what I think the answer is, and it's a revolt. You know, this country was built upon a foundation of revolution, folks, and if you want to get cranky about it, our founding fathers were domestic terrorists. The Boston Tea Party was an act of domestic terrorism. You've heard me say this many times. You could deem me a domestic terrorist. I'm sure if the government went over everything that I do on this show and heard every word I've ever said, I might not have threatened anybody of importance directly by my speech, but the fact that I'm out here stirring up the pot and using my constitutional right, the freedom of speech, I'm using it right now. They could deem me a domestic terrorist and say that I'm a danger to the government and I'm a danger to other people because, you know, I'm suggesting that we should do this, that, or the other. Or even merely talking about it, not even going to the point of suggesting it. Folks, we're living in dangerous times as Americans. And I don't know if you realized it, but if you're a Christian, it's starting to be kind of, you know, I'm starting to see a lot of things that don't look good for the Christians. I don't think we have much more time before you start to see this thing escalate to the point where we can no longer be in denial about whatever you want to call this. The taking over of our United States, guys. They're whitewashing all of us. And I really think there are some politicians out there that are like, whoa, man, this is not good, but I can't stop because I'm already part of the problem. They already got dirt on me. Sounds pretty goofy, don't it? But then it doesn't sound pretty goofy. You know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. If it looks like crap and it tastes like crap and it smells like crap, there's a pretty gosh darn good chance, folks, that it's crap. And right now, what we're dealing with here in the United States is total crap.